problem is we don't have the machine that can look into your heart and mind, right? So it's a statistical game.
Gad Saad was on Joe Rogan talking about the suicidal empathy that so many in the West have these days, and we thought we'd start with that. Take a look.
That don't share our foundational values. Again, this doesn't mean someone's going to write in the comment section, what a hypocrite. You're an immigrant, Gad Saad. Well, there are immigrants and there are immigrants. There are tons of Muslims who want to come in here and leave all that baggage at the door. They want nothing to do with that. They just want to live the American experience. The problem is we don't have the machine that can look into your heart and mind, right? So it's a statistical game. So if you're going to let in hundreds, I mean, look what's happening in Germany. Look what's happening in France. Look what's happening in Denmark.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that stuff is happening? Why do you think there's this mass immigration?
So that's a great question. So it's covered partly in Parasitic Mind, my earlier book, and in my next book, which I call Suicidal Empathy, right? So empathy is a emotion that has evolved for very clear evolutionary reasons. So just like any of our other emotions, for example, envy, there are evolutionary reasons why we've evolved the emotion of envy, right? It can compel us forward. I see that Joe's doing well, keeping up with the Joneses, maybe it'll get me off my fat ass so I can work harder. So there are very clear evolutionary reasons why empathy exists. But the problem is when empathy misfires, it either becomes hyperactive or it misfires in directing the empathy to the wrong person. So for example, illegal immigrants more important than American vets, right? And I can show you many public policies where you have these insane policies, all of which are due to suicidal empathy. So to answer your question, I think that the Western mind is we are kind, tolerant, compassionate, empathetic people. There are people out there, they're Guatemalan, they're Honduran, they're Yemeni, who don't have it as well as we do. Wouldn't it be nice if we open up our doors? So the reflex is a noble one. It's a nice one, but it exists in unicorn.
I have to say, as I sit here with one of the guys that was largely right about this stuff, it's always a pleasure listening to Gad because he's been warning about this for years. Unfortunately, the roadblocks that we were all trying to put up didn't work, I suppose. But this idea that empathy, that we in the West put empathy, or Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, putting tolerance up in that top position of the hierarchy, it has led to a disaster right now. I mean, it seems to me that we are now seeing on the shores of the United States what we've all been seeing clips of on Twitter in Europe for years, and going, we shouldn't have that happening here, and now it's happening here, and we don't seem to be doing anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that could be said. First, I was talking to Joe. He asked me the exact same question about 2 months ago on the show. People can go watch. It was the first thing. So we're just talking, and he's like, why do you think immigration's happening? And I'm like, whoa, Joe, okay, have you heard of the Cloward Piven strategy? And we went all the way tinfoil hat right away. So. Yeah. Contrary to the empathy.
How far do you want to take us on that ride right now?
I mean, it's just Cloward and Piven were two socialists who were coming up with a strategy for how you break a wealthy country and you overload its financial and social services resources. So you bring in immigrants, you up crime, you keep the budget deficit high until you end up with a financial crisis. And so there you go. You import millions across the border. They're very expensive. You have a financial crisis.
So you intentionally break the system so that they sort of need the new socialist
That's right. So they need a new system. That's right.
Yeah.
Because now we have so many people. They're dysfunctional. You have to take care of them. Things broke. So now everybody's dysfunctional. So you have to take care of them. So I'm not as, oh, this is organic and Westerners are just so nice. But that is, Gad's right. That is the empathy, the suicidal empathy, he calls it, is the tool that allows it to happen. And we've been manipulated for at least 50 years. You can read in The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. The foreword to that, or preface, is by Jean-Paul Sartre. And it's called A Letter to Europe. And he's like, the savages are coming and you better give it away. And look how great you've had it, and they're going to take it and they'll murder you if you don't give it away. And that's really the strange death of Europe. Our friend Douglas wrote the book titled that. But that forward really should be titled The Strange Death of Europe. They accepted it, and it's exactly what Gad said. It's that we care, we get this, oh my gosh, we've had it good, we're a little bit guilty for that, it's so crappy for other people. And we don't have that kind of Donald Trump, oh, they're from shithole countries, attitude.
Right.
That it's like, well, when it's their job to get their stuff together too, which is a much more frankly, classical liberal, not even a conservative position.
Right,
it's like individual responsibility, self-governance, different areas have to get their stuff together. So they weaponize that empathy and get us to override our better sense, and that enables strategies like Cloward Piven or whatever else to be able to be foisted on the people. And then, like you said, it's happening, and people either don't know what to do or they're just not doing anything about it. I predict, like we had in 2020, a critical race theory explosion. I think in 2024 we're going to have a critical immigration theory explosion. It's going to look carbon copy. Therefore, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think the American people will fall for it, but it's going to be ugly.